Roll call. Rich?
Here.
Should get
Dick's here. Can't think of who's saying that. Joel?
Here.
Here. Next, old business, approval of minutes. Does it take time to check them over? If so, do I have a motion to approve?
I so move.
James made the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, we're going to enter right into the conditional use hearing. It's for the swine production facility, 7,740 animals and 3,427 animal units. The petitioner is Foundation Farm, the RE LLC, Great Cropa. Location is the southwest one quarter, 23-105-67. And I guess we'd like to, and we'd like to have them get up and tell us all about it.
I'd like to speak for it.
Okay.
My name's Martin Butler. I'm with Pipestone.
Okay.
I have a sheet here, maybe a handout for you to follow. Information that about the project, and I'll do a description.
James.
Exhibit 1. Exhibit 1.
Is there no more?
And your name?
My name is Martin Butler
Okay.
with Pipestone. And then I have Dan DeHaan, who's our engineer here. Marty Rost, who is our, works with manure management. And then Nick Fitzgerald, he's in business development with myself. So this project is a partnership between Pipestone Farms. I guess I should go back. What Pipestone is all about is Pipestone is a management company that manages over 240,000 sows, over 60 units across the country. All of the units, they could be 3,000, 5,000 pigs or sows in it. They're managed by Pipestone for farmers. They're owned by farmers. And farmers take, get their partition of pigs from them, and they grow out the pigs from it. So that's the basis of our operation. We work for family farmers growing out pigs. We manage it. We don't own the pigs. Pipestone doesn't. Again, the farmers do. This project is a breeding stock farm where the sows produce the replacement sows for these other farms across the country. And it's a partnership between several of these units and DNA Genetics, which is a genetics company specializing in swine genetics. And it's a partnership with those animals to produce the replacement breeding stock for these farms. So the workforce, of course, in the farm will have to be highly technical skilled people that will be working in these farms. So why did we pick rural county? And so we can go through this information sheet. It's an agricultural community, grain availability, low population density, and access to good work ethics and animal husbandry skills, and an available workforce. And the scope and size, there'll be 4 buildings. One is going to be 1,080 maternity pens. That's where the pigs are grown out, sows, farrow, and they grow out the pigs to 21 days or 24 days in this farm. And then 2816 gilt development spaces, where 8 groups of 352 pigs. This is the replacement gilts for the farm, because all the replacements for this farm were grown out on the farm. And a compost building. Also, there'll be 44588 gestation sows in a gestation building. And then this will be stanchions. It won't be all gestation pens. It's open housing, what we call open housing, so the animals can get up and move around. There'll be 19 full-time people working on the farm, and the annual payrolls is $1.2 million a year, and that's including the 401k and medical insurance. Also, they have profit sharing with that retirement plan. It produces around 145,000 weaned piglets per year. And then these piglets are taken off the farm and grown out in GDUs, gilt development units at the farmers' farms, or the other sow farmers' units where they grow up to replacement gilts. So they go out as weaned pigs. The important part of this is the grain use is around 185,000 bushels per year, which would equal around 1,200 acres of corn, 890 tons of soybean meal, which would be about 750 acres of soybean production, 2,800 tons of DDGs, and the total feed cost is $1.3 million per year, which will be purchased locally. We'll also buy electricity at $170,000, and the propane use is $56,000 a year. Another part of this, of course, is the manure production, which is be about $170,000 in nutrient value created annually, and it's organic manure from the facility. And it'll produce enough organic nutrients for 1,000 to 1,200 acres annually. And the nutrient management plan is monitored by the state of South Dakota. That's the important part of this. And nutrients will go to local landowners. And the application method is a drag line with lower field compaction. It's less road use and improves safety. And the manure is incorporated in the soil at the time of an application for improved nutrient utilization. And the typical barn will have around, will have 25 pounds of nitrogen, 5 pounds of phosphorus, 15 pounds a K per 1,000 gallons. So based on 170 bushel per acre corn crop and a nitrogen-based application, the target would be about 8,000 gallons per acre applied. This would be about 200 pounds of nitrogen, 40 pounds of phosphorus, and 120 pounds of K. So a 6 market average for spring of 2018 at 37 cents a pound for nitrogen, 38 cents a pound for phosphorus, and 48 cents a pound per K would be $74 of nitrogen per acre, $15.20 of phosphorus per acre, and $57.60 of K per acre. So where does Pipestone fit in? What we do is we prospect sites for permitting, trying to find the best place to put it to have less impact on communities where it fits in very well. We provide the design and provide complete management for the owners. So the owners hire us completely to hire the people and to manage the farm, and we have a good record of managing the farm for not only manure management, for good animal production and high health. Currently manage 70 farms and more 70 sow farms with more than 240,000 sows in the Midwest. So we'll go into the roads. I'm doing this all up front, and then we can do questions afterwards. We'll go into it, but we do need good quality roads, and we will restore to as good as better condition as they were at the start of the project. We will sign a road haul agreement with the township or county if appropriate. And the truck traffic equipment is about 5 semi-loads of feed per week and 3 loads of weaned pigs or sows per week that'll go out. And those are all on semis. And so the economic benefit is 1.2 million annual salaries and payrolls, again, including the 401k and health insurance. We'll buy feed locally, of course, 1.3 million per year. And I went through how much corn we all used. Also, we'll be purchasing the utilities locally. And then also vendors used will include food service, fuel, lawn care, snow removal is in excess of $20,000 a year. And then we figure the nutrient application costs are approximately $130,000 and approximately $170,000 in nutrient value to the farmers. Property taxes are approximately $25,000. State sales and excise tax for the project are approximately $485,000. And then on the last page, water usage. We will have 2 wells, an average of 40,000 gallons of water per day. And then we have a 65,000 gallon reservoir on site. And so, you know, that sounds like a lot of water, but when you read through the example that we have right there, in a typical irrigation system, 1 inch of water would be applied over 4 days. 800 gallons of water per minute is generated from 1 pump, 48,000 gallons per hour. So we have about 3.5 gallons to apply 1 inch of water to 130 acres, and that's approximately 88 days of use of the sows and pigs drinking water from this unit. And so that kind of gives you an overview, and you've got this for your reference. And then I have my team here that can answer any questions that you would have.
I have a question. Why was that specific site chosen? Why wasn't it chosen where Greg's got 6,000 continuous acres and less people around him?
Well, I don't know about the other site you're talking about. This site was one that we picked that was best for applying manure for his land, for what he.
How would you know if you didn't look at the other 6,000 acres?
Well, I did. We thought this
Okay.
was the bid. Yes.
I see. I would like to know what brought you to that assumption.
Well, then the lay of the land, how the site would be built, you know, the
You mean out of that
construction site.
6,000 acres, you couldn't find a site comparable?
We'll wait on this until we get people the chance to talk. We're just gonna deal with these guys right now, and then after they're done, then everybody that signed up that has a chance, will have a chance to speak.
So,
I got a few questions, I guess. On the buildings, I take it you'll have pits underneath, correct?
Yeah, I can do some of that. I'm the engineer. In fact, I got some of the drawings here. I got an application package here that I wrote down. I'm Dan DeHaan, the engineer. I'm actually one of your neighbors. I grew up in Platte, so one of the DeHaans from downriver here. But our firm's based in North Dakota. I live in Aberdeen. I'm also the plant engineer for the beef plant up in Aberdeen. But this site meets, South Dakota DNR requirements from an engineering standpoint for 10-foot deep pits for the gestation and the GDU barns. And then the farrowing barn's a shallow pit that actually is drained into the
a
gestation.
larger pit.
Into the larger pit. And actually from the South Dakota DNR standpoint, that's not considered storage in the farrowing barn. It's, we have to maintain the storage for both barns in the other pits, in the deep pit. I've got plans there if you want to look at them. I don't know if it's going to help. Get a picture of them.
And then the compost building, what is that?
That's for composting.
Well, I understand that, but
dead animals, but
Okay. Yeah.
there's kind of a layout for you guys to look at. Unless I can get quite through what we can.
So the only solids hauled out of the building will be from this compost building?
Yeah.
Is everything else?
Yes, everything else be.
And that will be solids when you haul that out, right?
Correct.
We compost at probably 90% of our sow farms. And most of the composting is recycled and used over and over. We'll haul compost out of there probably once every 4 or 5 years, just because you can keep recycling it over and over and using it for fresh carbon material on new carcasses. So yeah, that'll be the only solid material that will be hauled out.
All right, the other question I had were estimated feed use. I take it you guys are not gonna put a mill up there, are you? So where would the product come from?
We'd be bidding out to local mills, and of course, we want to get the best deal on milling the feed. So we don't know,
Yeah, so
we
you
just don't know. But it'll be local. You don't want to haul feed very far.
I understand that. And then on a barn like this, you figure it takes about 1,000 to 1,200 acres.
That's right.
It depends on the crop rotation, the soil fertility, and then the nutrients that are in the manure, which are
Okay.
tested and monitored by the state every year.
How often do you figure you go back on a piece of property?
If it's a corn on corn crop, you can go on it year after year, but you have to follow the regs and what the crop consultants do. We hire a crop consulting company to make those recommendations, keep track of the manure samples, and take the soil tests. But typically, I'll just use that, we like to go every other year on a corn bean rotation or wheat, corn, whatever it happens to be.
Have you guys started on do you guys have a finished nutrient management plan in the state? So you have finished it?
It hasn't been supplied to the state yet.
Right, we have not
This is-
submitted the state, this is
a draft
Yeah.
that we're
Well, you do have
finalizing.
enough,
Yep.
you have enough acres.
yeah, about 3,700 acres.
Are they all rubbish?
No.
No.
Explain the use of a drag line.
Okay, so a drag line is a temporary manure hose that's run cross land to take manure from the deep pits to the field. And then in that field, there's an applicator that drags a hose back and forth applying the manure as you go. Once we're done pumping, that hose is blown out with air and then rolled back up on a coil and back to
What do you do to cross roads then?
through culverts. So we will install culverts through township roads, county roads, whatever we feel necessary to get under the roads so we don't inhibit traffic and save the farm money, because we're billed by distance. So if there's a culvert a half a mile down the road and we have to go down there, that's a half a mile and a mile back, that's extra money that it costs to pump that manure. So we would work with the county or the townships to install a culvert. We would pay for that.
Where do these drag lines, do they run in the ditches then, or where do you?
Either in the ditch or in the farmer's field, whatever. It's if we can go kitty corner, we get permission to go kitty corner across the section, for instance, we would do that.
What
Just
if the
say-
farmer doesn't want you to front their land with a drag line?
We don't block access, so if it's a field access, we would either install a culvert so that they can still get access, or work with the crop producer. So we're not blocking him or inhibiting him from getting to his fields.
Are these lines under pressure then?
They are under pressure. They put out, when they're applying the manure, it's probably 1,200 to 1,500 gallons a minute. is what they're applying.
What happens if there's an accident where it blows?
Yep, so they know that when they're applying the manure in the tractor, there's pressure gauges in there, and when they see a drop in pressure, they shut off the pumps and can actually, they have clamps. If there's let's say there's a leak, they can clamp both sides. But that, once they shut that pump off from the tractor, it shuts that pressure off.
There's fairly strict requirements by South Dakota DNR that they've got to follow for land application. And
How often would you be using the drag line?
Typically, we're going to use it twice a year. We try to do about 3/4 of the pumping in the fall, and then 1/4 of it in the spring. The farm's built to have one time a year in our application, but as we all know, Mother Nature can throw curveballs at us, and I don't like to not pump in the spring. If I can pump in the spring, a couple 100 acres, then we like to pump in the spring, just to give us that, to ease the pressure in the fall.
Extra room.
Extra room.
How many months is your fix?
they're over 365 days. However, the permit will be written, the standard for South Dakota DNR is 270 days. And that's the way the permit's written, but we have over a year's storage.
You got 12 months
Yeah,
storage.
we got 12 months storage.
All right. The other question I did when going through was on the wells. Have you went through the state yet to get your water permit?
This is our initial stage. We can't get this completed until we do get a water permit, but we want to go through some of the original zoning part, if it's a conditional use, whatever,
Yeah.
to get going before we start drilling the wells.
No. Yeah,
Because
just
we
I know
actually
when you
gotta
go
have-
over 20,000 a day off a well, you gotta get
25,000.
25,920 actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have to apply for a state water permit.
Yeah.
And that's our plan. But we have not yet at this stage, depending on how the zone is.
That was the question I had.
So what is the furthest that this drag line will go?
Depends on the size of our pumper. Some pumpers have the capability of going a mile. Some pumpers have the capability of going 5 miles or further. It all depends on how many booster pumps they have. I like to go close because that's more economical for the
You
south.
said you have 3,700 acres, what's your furthest acres? So what-
Oh,
I've got that on
Oh,
the map
sorry.
here.
Yeah.
I probably got that one. It kind of shows up.
4.5 or 5 miles roughly is the furthest.
Would you say that 50% of your acres are within 2 or 3 miles?
That's the,
Just
it showed you all.
yes, good.
I'd say fairly close.
This is, there they are.
Where's the? Can you show me where the no hard control sign is?
It's hard to read personally.
So most of this will be knifed in?
Yes.
What odor? Is there considerable odor with that thing or not?
The time, sorry, I'll answer that in a second.
No, not on that one, that's why it's hard to read. It's on one of my previous maps up here.
Here's where the site is, the yellow ones, and then these blue ones are the acres that I believe are. Yeah, here's the site, so it'd be 2 miles, we go 1, 2, 3. 50% roughly.
Sure, that's a good read.
I got another question I guess too. Is this pretty much your site? Do you guys usually plant trees or anything around it or not?
We will, yep.
I don't know if I showed, maybe I did show the plan.
That is one of our sites. Moody County, actually.
You see this, they're actually showing that there's trees.
What are we thinking the actual weight of the semi-loads of pig that's going out is gonna be? There's already a load.
We
limit on the road.
will meet the load restrictions in the spring, okay? But the pigs are less than 80,000 pounds total, but your feed trucks coming in will be 25 tons of feed on it, so there'll be 80,000 tons. But in the spring, we have to cut the loads down because we gotta meet the road restrictions at that time. If they're there, we're gonna honor them.
Which on one road is a permanent 80,000. The oil just south of,
Yeah.
We
We will meet.
gravel like 4 to 5, but then like I said, you didn't mention about road haul agreement on either, I guess, so.
How many gilts are gonna be shipped out?
We'll be shipping out, half of them will be gilts.
Yeah, but
about
I mean,
75,000.
grown up. Yeah, you're not gonna ship any grown up?
Grown up, they're all weaned
The only
pigs.
grown up ones are gonna be kept.
And then they're shipped to other sow
Other-
farms, yeah, and then they grow up
Right.
there on the farm.
So the only ones that you're keeping to grow up are the ones you're gonna use?
That's right, that's right, yeah.
And 65,000 gallon reservoir is probably enough?
For a couple days.
Okay.
Yeah. Just in case they have a problem. But we have 2 wells. We want to do 2 wells. If one well goes down, we have another well to depend on. Other places we use rural water too, but there's not rural water involved at this site. They don't have
Probably
the
not enough
capacity.
available.
Next person to speak on the, you got anybody else here you want to speak?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
any of you guys wanna say anything else?
I'll answer questions. I guess.
Okay, we should open it up then?
Oh, yeah, but make sure you go
Yeah.
through the list on the people
Right,
that.
yeah.
And then we need to set a time limit on that too.
What do we wanna set for?
How many you got that wanna talk?
We've got 5.
Let's say 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Yeah, I've got 5 people here that indicated that they want to speak. We'll give each one of you 5 minutes. And I guess we can start. And the first one I'll call is Jim Sankey.
And if, just 1 second, Jim,
Sure.
if you have a question for these gentlemen, you gotta direct it towards the chairman, then the chairman will ask.
Ask us the question, and then I'll ask them.
According to the county site analysis program developed in 2013 by the South Dakota Department of Agriculture, there were 32 sites within Rural County that met the minimum standards of the concentrated animal feeding operation analysis. Not one of these 32 sites was located in Plummer Township. I'm wondering why this site was chosen.
Okay, he wants to know why the site in Plummer Township.
I can answer that, because I also.
Okay,
The reason it wasn't in that 32, because it was too far away from the 3-phase. One of the criteria for that study that he's talking about is it was within a quarter mile of 3-phase availability, and this isn't. I believe, Marty, we gotta move it 8 miles? 9 miles. So we're spending a lot of money to do the build-out with the local utility company. So that was the reason it wasn't on there. It meets all the other criteria: water availability, setbacks near roads, tar road, things such as that. That was one reason it wasn't. But because of the isolation, we really needed to get more isolated, and that's the reason we're spending the extra money to bring the 3-phase in.
anything else?
Yeah. The setback for a CAFO is 1 mile from a residence. What's the setback from a residence from manure application?
Is there a
Because there
set-
is none.
There is.
There's none in the county zoning.
So basically, this stuff can be spread right across the road.
Right. Well, up to the, gotta meet the zoning, and there's gotta be the state, you gotta follow the state rules still. I mean, it's very hard to do, I mean, it's,
Okay, so is there any odor after the application?
Is there odor after
I
application?
can speak to that. That's probably the most odor that this farm will produce will be during application. And it's gonna take application at this site. If we can start and have good weather while we're doing it, it's gonna take 3 to 7 days, roughly.
And that's knifing it in?
That's knifing it in. I put manure, I live about a mile away from one of these sites. And I put manure about 100 yards from my front door, and it's not bad.
What's not bad?
I don't smell it. I don't smell it. And I know, I'm the guy here, right, asking for the permit. Easy for me to say, but look up where I live, it's fine. I mean, I put it right every other year right in front of my doorstep.
So there's no odor after, when the land is worked after the application?
I would think that probably not after site application.
And it's all subjective, right? I mean, that's a subjective question. And it's worked in. It smells the worst when we're applying manure, when we're agitating the pits. That's when it smells the worst.
But you're,
That's at the site?
Yeah, the agitation would be the same.
Yes.
That's at the site. is
Yeah,
what
because
it's-
the nine, it's getting injected in the ground, so it's not real surface apply.
you don't work around after injection or anything, you just.
No, that's
I'm
the
just-
farmer, that's the farmer's choice, I
Right,
guess,
I'm just-
if they want to,
I'm sure the farmer will work on
more than likely.
that. How big are these, are there outside pits?
No, it's all inside. Actually, not, get into the question.
Who's gonna monitor these things?
Who,
State of South
State of
Dakota.
South Dakota monitors.
Every year, I sit with the inspector and go through the application records. We do a walk around the site every year, every South Dakota facility.
Every South Dakota facility has a state inspector just once a year.
Every permitted South Dakota,
Every
every
permitted.
permit. It's large enough to have a permit.
How many facilities do you have in the state?
15, 16? I can count them.
Sounds like there's gonna be quite a bit of traffic. What's this gonna do?
Well, there would
What's
be
this gonna do to the road?
all the feed coming in, you know, so there will be.
Over a semi a day going by there,
Yes,
plus
sir.
19 employees.
It'd be a semi-day,
Yep,
at least, yes.
that's what he just said, it'd be a semi-day.
And people,
Semi a day.
people are gonna
I thought
drive
he
there to
said
work.
it's-
Well, yeah, you're gonna have a workforce,
Yep,
is what he's saying too.
but that's what roads are for.
19 people every day. Construction,
Sorry.
do you think there will be any added maintenance for these roads?
Will there be added maintenance is what he's asking.
And if there is, we will fix it.
If they paused it, they said they will fix it.
That's right.
Which would be all underneath the road haul agreement when it would be adopted.
When they make the road haul agreement with the county and the township, that will be part of it.
Can I make a comment to that question?
Yes.
We've actually helped improve roads because we need good roads too. We've actually volunteered to pave,
Are they gonna
not
pay?
only maintenance, but to upgrade the road. Not from gravel to paved, obviously, but, you know, to lift up a low spot or to put in extra culverts or whatever. I mean, we need the roads too.
What's gonna happen to property values in the area?
I guess I could ask them what's gonna happen to property values. I don't know if they would know.
I think, Nick, in Iowa, if there's a hog farm nearby with fertilizer value for a farmland, what happens to value of that farmland?
our most dense, swine dense, or livestock dense counties in the state of Iowa. I'm from Iowa. Have the highest land values today. Can't speak that there's any correlation to that by any stretch of the imagination, but Sioux County, northwest corner of Iowa, has the highest land values in the state of Iowa today. And they're the most livestock dense county in the state of Iowa.
So if the property values increase, are the taxes going to increase?
Well, I would sure bet.
That's a good question.
I guess I got one more question. On the board, I'd like everyone to raise their hand that would like to live next to one of these. I would like everyone on the board to raise their hand if they'd like to live close to one of these.
I'm not gonna answer that. No, I'm not gonna answer that.
Why not? That's my last question.
If we're gonna get bullied by the thing, we're just gonna ask everybody to leave. We're not gonna start this. I mean, this is a zoning board meeting. We come here to a lot of other things we gotta do, but you guys want to sit and bully, then you guys can all leave.
I don't want to bully.
Okay, we're not gonna start
My
this.
mother's got to live a mile down the road from this place. I just like to know what it's
We
gonna
also
be.
gotta have jobs in the community too, so there's always two sides to every angle.
There's a give and take.
Yeah,
This is
exactly.
an awfully big operation now. And does it have to be really that big?
All right.
What
next
are
person.
the roads to the facility? Are they township or are they, how close are you to a county road?
They're all county roads.
County
They-
roads.
It is all county right to the
Yep.
facility.
Right to that facility.
Okay, well, thank you, Jim.
Yep, thank you.
And next up, Brian Abbott.
I'd like to talk about the angle of tourism. There is an aspect of that in that area that's pretty significant. There's probably, just between several lodges and the day hunters, there's over 1,000 people that come to that area as their vacation. And it's one of those things that we think it's gonna impact that significantly. They come to South Dakota for the wide open spaces, the fresh air. We have established businesses. Mine's 21 years and several others that are in the room have a lot of vested interest in tourism attraction, which draws a lot of money to the state. And it's gonna be negatively impacted, we believe, due to this happening. Whether it's the odor, traffic, whatever you name it, we feel like it's gonna be impacted. The example I guess I would use is if you've got a good restaurant that's doing well and you allow someone with a garbage disposal business or whatever that's unsightly or smells to hurt that business, we think that's probably going to be a negative impact for those of us who bring people in the tourism side of it. And it's, it's the livelihood for several in that area, and that portion is one of my bigger complaints. Secondly, you've got 3,700 acres. Is there any way of disclosing the list of who's on that? Because how far would you have to pump to make it justifiable or feasible? How many of those acres are close? How many of those acres are just to get acres so the state sees you've got them? I don't know that answer because we don't see that. I guess maybe that's a question that you guys could pose. The question would be is it feasible to take these lines 3-4 miles? Because I represent also a significant portion of the farm ground around there, and which is not signed up, and my dad represents another significant portion of the land that's right around there that's not signed up. So what is signed up to get, because the next level is the state level, which has, you have to have so many acres to get to the state level. And you can get them They might be 5 miles away, it might be 4. So where is that at exactly? And is it justifiable to take it 3-4 miles?
I guess do you guys have a list that you want to disclose about when you're doing or not?
I guess the list would be in the state application. And to answer his question on is it feasible to pump 5 miles? We pump 5 miles today on some farms. We pump half a mile. So anywhere in there. And then I guess you guys saw the map, I guess,
Yeah.
unofficially, but,
I think if I had, it's the tourism side of it, to be honest with you. That really is a big factor for several guys in the room. I mean, we've got established businesses. We've worked hard to make it a tourism place. People come there from a long ways away. And it's I don't know how it's any different than having a popular restaurant that gets a garbage disposal business or something that's gonna be deterring from being outdoors.
Is that all you have to say then, Brian?
Brian, your lodge, where is that from the facility?
It would be, as a crow would fly, where the proposed facility is probably 3.5, I'd say
Which-
4.5, 3, as a crow would fly.
Which direction?
Northwest. I do hunt, I mean, right up to it. I hunt on 2.5 sides, 3 sides of it. So, you know, we make regular trips that way. I guess that probably might change how we do a lot of things, I guess, but that would be a big deal for me. And others, you know, I don't represent, I think I'm kind of speaking for several as it relates to the tourism part. Again, they want to talk about the economic impact, but I think it's going to be negatively affecting the impact financially for another business, the other businesses that are pretty prominent in that area. And I guess that maybe if I still had 5 minutes, oh, sorry, go ahead.
When you're saying that it's going to hinder the tourism aspect, are you thinking it's because of the large buildings? Are you thinking it's because of the odor, or?
Well, I think
because
odor
of
would
the
be
traffic?
odor would be probably first and foremost. I think you that would be the first one. I mean, it's, you know, where we live, it's pretty wide open. I mean, there's not much, probably why they picked the spot. I mean, it's pretty wide open. There's not much out there. It's kind of what people come to South Dakota to do, and I think that's why we're pretty successful in that area, because it's. So yeah, I would say odor. I would say odor, for the most part.
The application occurs when?
spring and fall,
Spring and fall.
Mostly fall.
mostly fall.
Nice.
The other question, I guess, before my 5 minutes is up is, you know, I'm all for the employment and all that aspect of it, but what percentage of all these facilities, what percentage of it is legal immigrants versus, do you guys have any numbers like that? I mean, it would be kind of curious to know.
I guess, I was asking, you guys have numbers on your background of your employees? And if you do, would you want to give them out?
Sure. I mean, I can speak a little bit into that. Two things. I want to make a point on wide open spaces. Remember the field I said I put manure on? 100 yards from my front steps. A week after this is one scenario, one situation, but a week after we did that, I was out hunting geese in that chopped wheat field. So, one scenario where odor, it's not an issue. As far as employees, we do our best to hire locally as much as we can. If we can staff the farm with local people, we will. If the farm struggles to hire local people, we use a program called the TN Visa program, which brings in legal workers from other countries that are all college educated, that are interviewed, that are very good workers, that have been very successful for us, and actually have mid to upper range positions in those farms. So they're not the, not the bottom of the totem pole by any means in different situations.
You're talking about bringing in skilled labor.
Exactly. Exactly. Educated, college-educated skilled labor.
I think
Legal labor.
I believe they probably do. The only question I had was if you guys knew a percentage, if it was of the league.
30%.
30% is.
That's our turn, about 30% across all our farms.
You're talking turnover though.
Are you talking turnover
Or 30% would be the TN deal.
And he's saying 30% probably for non-local
Yep.
people.
And when you build it and you establish it, people come to where there's jobs. People don't go to where there isn't jobs. This will create jobs. We want to hire local. And there's a lot of people that work locally. And I started off working in one of these farms. It's a good career, and it's a career path for people to work in these farms, where they can grow in a company. And so we want to hire local.
Okay, well, thank you, Brian. Next up on my list, I've got Kurt. You have an hour?
Yep, right here. And I guess I would like to expand on what Brian's saying. We also have a large hunting operation. We also have a large dog training camp, okay? And because of that, I'm out in the fields spring, summer, fall, and I am on the downwind side no matter what on that operation, because we also lease a lot of hunting ground and we're all around it. So what my deal is that I'm also bringing in people, and the hunting operation is set up on a very short window. I'm sure most of you gentlemen, growing up in this state, you understand about how it all works. So for me to have 5 to 7 days or whatever it is, and depending where the land is signed up, I know one of the farmers has got land leased all around me that I have a feeling is going to apply this manure, and I'm going to have it from all directions. So that, to me, is going to be very detrimental to, very close to my operation, because they lease the ground, and I don't lease that particular ground. So I've got it really close to me, and that is not going to be real conducive to walking out and smelling, I'm sorry, but I don't think anybody's going to appreciate that, okay? I also have a question as far as, I understand that there's an older building across from this site that's being renovated for housing for the workers.
Is that correct? Are you guys renovating an older building for housing?
That's correct.
And that is for the immigrant workers, that's not for locals.
That would be for people that we have to work on the farm, yes, sir.
But that's immigrant workers. That's from talking to your
Would that
people.
That would be the TN.
That would be non-local.
That would be non-local.
That's correct.
Okay.
Because local people should have their own house.
Correct.
Okay. And you're gonna house up to how many people in that facility?
And he's asking how many people are you going to put in?
It could be 4 or 5, maybe.
I heard
He's
much
thinking
larger.
4 or
You guys
5.
have a phone number up there, and I've made a couple phone calls. We're kind of hearing some different things here, I guess. So from what we're being told by your
He's saying he's hearing a little different.
So, also the number of hogs, we're at 7,000, and I think that number adds up to a little over 8,000, doesn't it, when you bring in the replacement gilts as well as the sows?
Well, what's there?
And are you gonna have barrels in there? Is there not gonna be boars in there too? Or not?
Are there going to be both gilts and barrows raised there?
That's correct, up to weaned age.
Up to the weaned age.
That's correct.
And did I understand it right that you're not going to bring full-size pigs back in, you're going to raise all your own replacements?
That's exactly right.
So they wouldn't be bringing full-size hogs back in.
Okay, but did we address the barrels number in?
Well, that would be your total number of animal units.
Okay, all right.
And that number will be checked by the state every year too.
Yes, that will be part of their inspection.
Okay. So if we have this manure being applied, and is this gonna be automated, or do we have human intervention in this? I
The
mean,
the manure application does take human
okay,
attention.
so if we have an accidental lack of depth, then what happens if that manure lays only an inch deep and half of it's on the top, and we have that smell out there for
He's
a
asking if,
while?
how the depth is regulated and if there's a possibility of human error.
There's always a possibility of human error.
Yep.
They incorporate it. We hire licensed, insured manure pumpers that, we trust them to pump 250,000 sows worth of manure.
You contract that.
If we do not own those, they're contract hired out.
If one of these hoses bursts, we all know you just don't shut it off like that, it's gonna take a little bit of time. What happens with that? Then what happens
There's
with the cleanup?
bound to be a little smell when you get a break like that, but the way I understood he mentioned before was that there's a clamping system involved and you would clamp both sides of the break.
Anything that's spilled, they clean up.
How long
They're
does it take
insured to do
find
that.
a break though?
Well, they said earlier that there was a pressure gauge in the application unit. So when something would break, they would know about it right away.
Okay. Now, the next question would be the construction phase of this facility. How long is it gonna take to build this facility?
How long do you project building to take?
From the time that the first floor is poured, we allow the contractor 8 or 9 months. So it's about a 9-month process.
It's just about a 9-month process.
And who's gonna build this? Is this gonna be local contractors, or do you bring in a crew from out, and where do all the employees come from?
Is it a local contractor running?
Go ahead.
So we will bid out the project to several contractors and select the contractor that is the most competitive, but also performs the highest quality work on the farms.
What, my question would be then is what do you consider local? We've talked about local, and I mean, local is kind of a vague question. I mean, how far out is local? Are we talking Kimball? Are we talking Corsica to get feed? Are we talking Platte? What's local?
He wants to know what you consider local.
The nearest high-quality feed mill that can produce the product that we need to feed the animals on the farm.
And we're motivated to get as close as we can. You're
Yeah.
motivated.
Absolutely. Freighting feed is a costly, you run into diminishing returns.
Right. They want to be as close as they can to transport their feed, because the farther you get out, it doesn't pencil.
Okay. Now, I have a question, and I don't know, gentlemen, this is not directed at you in any negative, positive way, but it's just a simple question. I didn't know about this, and I only live one of my properties is about a mile and a quarter away. And there's no signs posted about this.
There should have been a sign, I took one out,
Absolutely, you can ask.
unless it
anybody.
it was taken out there, I took it out there personally.
Well,
It's not there. They've
we've
been
never
there for 2
seen.
weeks.
Never seen it.
Okay, never seen,
There every
nobody
day.
in here has seen the sign.
Okay.
So I found out about this Sunday. I don't get the paper. I guess maybe I need to get the paper. So I wasn't even aware of all this happening, how should I say, around me. This is kind of impactful. I think hopefully I've explained that to you folks, I mean, why it is to me. Okay, so there's also, there was no signs. There was only a handful of people that got these notifications. And my understanding isn't the state law that within 3 miles of one of these proposed, everybody should have gotten a
Actually,
letter
it's a half mile. We
from
pushed,
manure application.
it's 1 mile. We pushed it out 1 mile.
But if you're gonna have manure applied close to you, it is
It's,
in
in
the
our
state.
zoning,
Look it
it's
up.
1 mile.
It's, if you're gonna have
From the facility,
manure
not-
applied next to
Yeah,
you,
from the facility, it's 1 mile per our zoning book.
but if you're gonna have manure applied, I read this on the computer, you can pull it up and hand it to you. If you're gonna have manure applied next to you, you have to be notified of this meeting. if it's gonna be within 1/2 mile of your farm.
But we'll have to look at our zoning book and see, but as of what we have, it's 1 mile.
It is in it. It's that, the notification you're saying of the building being built, we're saying of the manure application. So there's more than myself, we never got a notification of this meeting. We didn't even know about it. I heard about it at the Kimball Clark from one of the neighbors, and I went, what? So it was kind of a blindsided deal here, and there's no notification. And you guys have always done a great job of posting everything else, like Gavilon and all the other ones. There was your pink signs or whatever down there, you couldn't miss them. There's not one sign up there.
Clip.
The sign was out there, so I'll go look and see if it fell
One
over.
sign for something of this impact, one sign?
That's all required, is one sign at the property.
Okay, well, yeah, it was not. And then, how come wasn't everybody sent out a letter on this? But you're saying within 1 mile?
Everything within a mile was sent out, and it was posted in the paper and it's on our website.
Okay,
The conditional use application would not have given us the acres where they were going to apply the manure. The conditional use application is for the building site.
okay.
So it would have been pretty difficult. I don't even know if what you're saying is correct or not, but not knowing those acres, we wouldn't have been able to
Yeah,
tell who
we wouldn't have
by any.
got that information until it came this far. You know, just the first permit, we wouldn't have been.
And then, gentlemen, my last question, I know you've got other people to talk to, and I appreciate your time, is it goes to the acres. We're talking about 3,700 acres, but when we've talked to everybody here, we can't seem to come up with, other than Greg's ground, where any of this ground is coming from, that they're adding up, but yet they won't divulge where this supposed land to apply this manure is. I think we kind of need to know that. Isn't this is an open meeting to know where this land is coming from? Because that's kind of a vital deal. If they have the acres or don't have the acres, that's a condition that you gentlemen need to know to authorize this, don't you?
Yeah, can I answer that?
Sure.
Under zoning book says that we need to give enough acres or to match the manure management plan. And they handed us the manure management plan, so they did do to their point they had to do for the
But
county.
why can't we know who and how many acres?
Well, there's 3,700 acres.
But who and how many did each person sign up? Because everybody around it.
Because zoning isn't a popularity contest. I don't go to your place and go, how many shotgun shells you shoot today?
Yeah, but
You know, I mean, it's just, I'm sorry. When it's stuff goes to handing to the zoning, we are a zoning board.
Right.
They match, they give us for the nutrient management plan. That's all we can ask to do.
okay.
I got a question. Of all the 3,700 acres, do you have contracts with all those people? Then if they do have contracts for all those people, then their due diligence is complete. And I do not know if we can force them to divulge or not.
I would say not.
That's probably not. So, by their steps, going through their steps and completing their part of the 3,700 acre plan, and they've got signed contracts, well, that would be part of the state inspection, and even before that goes any further, they're gonna have to divulge to the state their contracts, so the state can verify.
Your recommendation tonight, though, how you vote on it, will go to the commissioners for the next meeting. And actually, for this to actually be zoned and authorized, don't you guys have to have all your facts here to actually vote yea or nay? And wouldn't that be a kind of a huge factor in that? Just a question again about the, I mean, they say they have the acres. I could say I got $10 million in my bank account too, but when somebody audits me or audits them, we could both be liars. So, I mean, that's all I'm saying. I mean, and how do we know that this has actually been signed up? Because everybody around there said they haven't signed up. So we can't figure out how these acres, I mean, other than Greg, and that's, you know, for his benefit, this whole deal.
Can I clarify this? Because
Sure.
they come here as a conditional use, so the condition to the county is to match all the required, grab a handbook. And then, so if they do not match, then they do not get the conditional use. If they go 10 years down the road and they're missing 1,000 acres, well, guess what? They do not have the conditional use that required in the state anymore. So that means they are gone. So I mean, to have conditional use in the county, if you do not meet the conditions, then they are no longer viable in the county. Did that make sense? So if you want to say they don't have 3,700 acres, well, 5 years from now, if they build, they don't have 3,700 acres, then I guess they probably don't have a hog barn anymore. And that's just how the conditions in the county are set. I mean, the zoning book puts up rules, and we're here to say, to check mark the rules. I mean, a lot of times, if you want to go to a popularity contest, you got to go to the county commissioner. It's all for us to match the conditions of the county. So.
Okay.
Okay, I think there's one item you were talking about, page 39, item H. Are you prepared to, a notification section of your operational plan should be formulated that has the names, addresses, phone numbers of all occupied residences in public gathering places within 1/2 mile of the manure, applicant's manure application fields.
That's exactly.
So, what he's saying is that once you're operational, you have to have a booklet that says that you have the names and phone numbers of everybody that is gonna be within 1/2 mile of where you're applying manure. And then it goes on to say that the application should try to refrain from weekends, holidays, and evenings during warmer seasons, and then complaints could lead to having a 48-hour notice if you were going to apply. So that's the section. That's number 8 of section 521 is what that is. But that says that you should have a plan that goes A through I, which talks about how you're going to dispose of dead animals, screening and buffering, as far as possibly building shelter belts or something like that around the buildings to try to keep the wind from picking you over up and sending it down to the neighbors. It talks about stormwater management. It talks about solid manure storage plan, the description and time frame for removal of manure and things like that. That goes down through that section. I would guess that a lot of your stuff in that booklet right there probably answers.
It addresses
a lot of these questions.
Yeah, okay. I would imagine that the stuff in the book there would answer that. And, is that is addressed in your book?
Yes, the only thing maybe not to be in there is names and addresses of everybody
But,
within a half mile.
With a half mile. The names and addresses are probably there, but it's addressed that they will have to.
Well, they have the names and addresses of the people they're applying on, not the people that they're applying next to.
That's
Right.
correct. I have it, the names and addresses we're applying on, but not next to.
And that's one thing too, with the next 2 weeks before whatever this board decides, we still have 2 weeks where we look at that book, make sure the stuff's there. And if it's not, then that gets addressed as well, and the commission are notified of that, and they know what's there and what's not if something's missing, so. Right now, this board is to either recommend approval or not recommend approval, and then give that recommendation
Or put
to the,
conditions on it.
or put more conditions on it, and then forward that information on to the county commission.
Alright.
Any other things for
No, gentlemen, thank you. No, thank you for your time.
And does anybody else wish to speak? There's nobody else on the list. Yes.
I have a question. Okay, so they're gonna pump what, through a tube.
Correct.
I just was at a dairy in Sibley, Iowa, which, if you go there, every quarter has a hog building on it or more, anyway. But this particular dairy milks 1,600 cows a day, 3 times a day. They pump to the farmers. They broke, while we were there, they broke a hose twice. I don't know what the consequences of that break was, but that's, and the other question I would have is, if I pay taxes to the middle of the road, how can you run a pipe through my ditch? If you gotta go through my ground to get to other ground, tell me why my land is to the middle of the road. That's where I pay tax. I don't want the pipe in my ditch.
I guess the middle of the road deal would be part of public domain. And for the, and it's kind of what we're here to decide or help. It's all taxpayer money. They've made the road. And yeah, we all pay tax to the middle of the road.
Forever. We buy the land for initially, we pay for it in interest, we pay for it in taxes, and then we have to publicly let everybody run over us. I guess this affects he's got 7 kids, they depend on his pheasant deal. Kurt's got, his whole family depends on the pheasant deal, and there's others in here that do. Marvin, whoever. This is their life. They've spent 20-some years and tens of thousands of dollars building businesses that will definitely be affected. And if anybody tells me that my land is not going to depreciate because I got a hog building 1/4 mile away from it, I don't believe it, and I don't think anybody else would. And if you ask the people that live next to these buildings, you go to Iowa. I've never done it, but you can't tell me that pigs don't stink. I raised hogs. I had pits. Okay, your organic manure. How do you keep the smell from coming out through your ventilation system?
Okay, they're asking if there are any precautions on the smell as it gets into the air. Yes.
I'll answer that question. Who was the last speaker?
Ed Hadley.
Ed Hadley.
Thank you. To address odor, we do a few things. Like Martin said, we will plant trees around the perimeter of the site to help buffer zone. The pits are covered, like we've addressed before. They're deep pits underneath the barn, so that odor is there. We also use pit additives to help minimize odor and keep solids suspended and keep the pits from crusting, which also helps odor.
Yes, Ed.
I did the same thing. I had pits under my hog buildings. We put additives in. If you put additives in, how can you call it organic? If you got feed with drugs in it, are these drug-free pigs? No. If you got feed with drugs in it, it goes into the manure. That's, to me, it's not organic. Organic is organic. If you were organic farming and they spread this manure out there, excuse me, you would be out of business.
Well, I guess Ed's asking the question if it's truly organic or not.
It's not commercial fertilizer that you buy at the fertilizer plant.
So in that respect, it's not bought in fertilizer is what he's saying, so.
I guess we didn't come to debate organic or inorganic.
Would this qualify on an organic farm? That this person spent 10 years building an organic farm, and you happen to get a spill on him or whatever, would that put that man out of business?
Would your hog operation with a spill, would it disqualify an organic farm?
We do not know
I
that.
You do not know that question?
We don't know that.
Okay,
I don't know what the definition of organic is. We didn't come prepared for that.
yes, sir.
I have a question about
What you mean?
Wayne sinking.
Okay.
Anyway, I live up in Minnesota, and my mom Lois lives a mile away from this hog operation. But my question is, they just had an article in the Minneapolis paper about neighbors around a hog confinement are in litigation because of air quality. Hydrogen sulfide is a health hazard, and their problem is that, yes, the state's supposed to monitor this air quality, but no one has been monitoring it. Who is going to monitor, and what are the limits of hydrogen sulfide in the air, which is a health risk, in this operation?
Do you guys know the limits of the hydrogen sulfide?
We're not prepared, but the information is out there, but we didn't come prepared to present that.
They did not come prepared to present that part.
But what we did come is we were meeting the specifications, the zoning specifications. And in your zoning, when you set it up, I'm assuming that you took that in consideration with the setbacks.
That would all be part of the process.
I'm just concerned that once this operation gets in place and gets going, that there is not going to be diligent
By the state?
by the state, by the county, whatever, to monitor what they need to. And if it's an annual inspection, is that the only requirement they have is an annual inspection to continue their conditional use permit?
Is that your only requirement, is the annual inspection?
For the state or for the
state.
zoning, I guess, the state,
For the state.
they can inspect us anytime they wish. But they're required to do an annual inspection of the records in the facility.
He said they're required to do an annual inspection, but they can inspect at any time.
So you don't know who that state inspector would be?
No.
Well, it's state, it's the state.
There's about 12.
Yeah, DNR. The
DNR.
DENR.
I have a quick question. Do they do unannounced inspections on these
Yes,
sites?
he said they
No,
just.
no, they got to be at least 7 days, I believe, state.
Is that what it is?
7 days notice.
I think, is that what it is?
Well, I was doing an inspection with a state employee, with a state inspector, and we drove by a site, not one of our sites, it was actually a dairy, and he got delayed. He went to that site unannounced. So, I don't know what the technicality is. Yeah, he drove by and he called and said, yeah, I'm gonna be delayed.
How long?
So,
I think it's
Their annual inspections, that's
Yeah.
correct.
I
They
think-
give notice.
yeah, because it's mostly paperwork.
yeah.
Yeah, you were saying how long those?
I think it's a yearly inspection, they gotta give you at least a week,
Oh, okay.
because you gotta have all your paperwork done.
Right.
If they would drive by and see
Yeah.
a violation, they would have the authority to stop.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Vicki Holmes. Just a couple questions. Knowing where we live, we fought and fought to get the rural water up there because well water was not available at all. And what it was artesian, hard, rusty water. So I was just wondering where you're gonna get wells that pump what water you were gonna need. Because
She
our well
wanted
at
to know-
home is 1,300 and some feet.
She's wanting to know where you're gonna get your well water, which aquifer?
Dakota
We're
aquifer
gonna go down.
is what we're, in our investigations, that's what we found, was the Dakota aquifer. And yeah, it's 11 to 1,300 feet deep.
To the artesian.
Artesian well.
So that's gonna lower ours even more.
But the state will regulate how deep and how much they can use then? Is that?
They'll have to be permitted.
Yes.
They will do an evaluation of what we're applying for and make sure it's acceptable.
Yeah,
Doesn't
they will
degrade the
apply for, depth to that aquifer, and the state will make sure that comes to play.
Okay. All right, the other thing, they said they have to bring in 8 or 9 miles of three-phase line. How do they get that there? You have to have easements to get in three-phase, and I know,
Which way is that coming from?
The south,
from Gavilan.
by that big green setup, that's where it's coming from.
Coming from Gavilan.
Gavilan. So don't, but I think they had to go through, Gavilan had to go through easements from landowners.
Pretty sure they did. Yeah.
I'm sure they did, I know they did. So they're gonna
Well,
have to have all that in
they'll-
place
yeah,
then, just so
they
that
will have
condition
to.
is in your book. That's all I'm wondering, is to make sure that that's in there. Okay, and then what about disease from the hogs? I mean, we have other people still around in the neighborhood that do have hogs. What if they have a disease outbreak? What do they do for taking care of that?
Disease communicability and
We're high health, we're just as concerned with disease outbreak as anyone else is. We're gonna do the best to keep our animals clean. And that's,
But what if a truck breaks down, or, I've seen hogs jump out of the back of a truck. Believe it or not, they can do it. Don't ask me how, but they did it. And so what if something like that is loose and it gets into the neighbors with any hogs that have them?
that's the same rules what we live with every day. I mean, we've had livestock in the country, and we've had the same problems. We have the same laws as what we've always had.
Okay, but you got places or rules that you've got to cover it so that it's not an issue if it's an insurance thing or something gets,
We'll follow the law
okay.
and we'll,
So how many acres are actually in this, conditional use? 160, is it the whole quarter, or is it just,
it's, the conditional use permit is for the quarter.
For the quarter.
it's for the whole quarter? Because like I said, there was no sign. I know, because I think I called Mike when the Gavilan sign went up, because I asked him, I said, what's going on? And we drove up there, there is no sign.
I'd put one up personally, so it
They
either,
go up and put
it either
one up.
blew over, I'll be out there tomorrow morning to either find it or put a new one up.
Okay, all right.
We put them up and we're
Well,
not,
that's what we
with the
thought.
remote area, I'm not out there every day to
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
sure it's still there.
Yeah.
They blow over.
Well, one of Gavilan never did blow over, and I know there was some good winds there, but anyway. And just want to ask have you guys ever been turned down on any of your other applications anywhere?
Have you ever been turned down before?
yes.
And they're
Any
saying,
re-
yes, they have.
Okay, can you tell us any reasons why? Was it, just something that the community didn't want you there? Was it an application problem?
Would you
Or-
state a reason, or?
I don't think we can state a reason.
Okay.
Not that we don't know a reason or have a feeling or an opinion,
Okay,
but
just,
I don't think it's pertinent to this.
Probably,
okay, well, I'm just asking. That's just a question.
okay,
So, all right, thank you.
you bet. Yes, ma'am.
I am the one that's going to live the closest to this operation. And when they put that stuff in the ground, and a windstorm comes along, and it's put in about 80, there is a lot of dust comes through where I live. I don't need that contamination. And I don't care for the value of the land, it will be hard on that. So I am very much against it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Who's that speaker?
That was, Mrs. Is that,
No, I'd like to talk yet.
yes, sir.
Jim Hoyne. I don't know if it's exactly pertinent to the meeting, but the other thing to think about is the schools. If they're migrant, whatever, workers, what about, is there gonna be another barn put up close to it within 5 years? So then that brings in another 19 or 20 employees. How many kids does that bring into the schools? You're gonna end up with an ordeal like Plankington has right now, where they're ending up having to hire bilingual teachers to gap and teach these kids. that costs the schools more money, it costs us more money. It's just, my kids are all in school. It's not that I have anything against anybody, but that costs us. And I don't know how that isn't going to.
From an educational perspective, you're thinking that it's gonna cost
The schools,
the schools,
the taxpayers,
which in
it's
turn
gonna,
would be
yeah.
taxpayers.
Yeah, but that's a county commissioner thing, not his own.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Well,
believe
that's why I said I didn't know if it was
Right.
Oh,
permanent.
thanks, Jim.
I just, my thoughts, and the other thing is can we look at that map of where the manure is to get spread or not? Can I walk up and look at it, or?
I don't, no, I'm not.
Okay,
No, we're just here for zoning.
okay.
And you're you're leaving one of those here?
Yeah, it was, it wasn't your copy.
Okay, one other question then, or is how close can it be spread to waterways? Highly erodible land. A lot of that land where it's gonna be getting spread is washes. There's no way that it doesn't. They started strip tilling, and then I farm right across from guys that strip till, that put the hog manure in the ground, and I've seen it wash. The gullies where they applied the nitrogen, or all the manure, and it washed right down the creek, right onto our ground, and it killed our crop. I'm standing here, and I know that where this happened is not nearly as highly erodible as what that is up there. And I know that's probably some of the ground that they got permission to spread on is close to a creek. And I don't know where that buffer is.
You guys offhand know if you are going to contract to spread on any highly erodible ground or not?
We have limitations by what South Dakota DNR allows to plow. And
So
then if you've got.
by your limitations, you probably cannot.
200 feet.
Two or 300, it might be.
Right, there's, your county has certain rules, and from applying your stream, the state has an additional requirement.
Yes.
You gotta meet all
Ed.
those.
Supposing the guys that have signed to have manure spread are leasing the land, and they lose their lease in 1 year, 2 years, and the landowner says, the next guy that leases it doesn't want anything to do with it. How long are these guys tied in? When they sign this paper to spread the manure, how long are they tied in for? The life of the building?
The landowner doesn't, the landowner has to sign for it. The leaser cannot sign for it, it's a valid, not a void.
Okay.
The landowner has to sign.
Just need to know, yeah.
Is that
How long are the leases for?
Why?
You can't get a lease for 2 years and have a 30-year building.
No, it's not, oh, you mean if you, the other people that are signed up, you mean?
Right.
To spread the manure on.
Right.
If that's just a one year.
Actually, I think they're 10 or 15, the ones that we have signed up. There might be a 5, I don't remember. But then they're evergreening after that, to renew automatically after a year, unless written notice is given by either party to terminate.
So consequently, the 5-year leases, at the 6th year, they decide that they're out, and they take away 1,500 acres of your 3,700. You're out of compliance, you
could
can't get
happen.
it
Then we
back,
have to find
and
more
you
acres.
shut your building down, and you've spent millions.
If they don't find suitable acres to apply on, by the time they apply next time, then yes, they would be out of compliance.
We have to have a functional, up-to-date nutrient management plan. If it's 1,500 acres that we can put the manure on, that's what it has to be. If it's 2,500 acres or whatever it is, but we have to have a
your plan
function.
has to be kept
Yep.
up to date.
Right.
So if you got notification that you were gonna lose, you would have to immediately go
Yes.
find more land. Yes, Ed?
How much does a building like this setup cost?
Did you
That
guys-
should be obvious, you guys
Yeah,
have a lot
it
of
is.
them.
It's
About 14.8 million.
Okay, 14.8.
Not including
Greg?
livestock.
Greg?
Not including the livestock.
Okay, so, and the owner will be Greg?
No, no,
You?
no, it's gonna be
Pipestone Farm.
Pipestone Farms will be the
Right.
owner of,
Right.
no.
I thought you said it was the farmers that owned them.
The real estate will be owned
By
by,
the DNA people and then the people from out of state They're the ones that own this. Pipestone's the management.
The ones that are gonna own the livestock will be DNA Genetics Company, and a group of farmers that own sows will be the other half.
I understand that.
But the real estate itself will be owned by Pipestone Holdings,
And the building.
the building. and
So
they'll
this
lease
is
it to
just a
them.
figurehead. He's a front man for you guys to put this in our area. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The other, I guess I've still, the other thing is, I mean, obviously this can't be knifed in on pasture ground. I mean, it has to be farm ground, and there isn't that much farm ground in my head within 4 or 5 miles of that place, so I'm not 100% sure.
Well-
But I know that you guys will look through it, but I'm just saying that it's,
Well, go ahead.
or is it gonna be top dressed on pasture
No,
too?
we can, there's applicators out there that can do a no-till or a minimum disturbance till that will incorporate that into the soil. On grass ground, on pasture ground, it's. we
There is a
currently-
minimum till,
How deep then will that be?
How deep?
4 or 5 inches, 6 inches, I don't know.
4 or 5.
On a minimum till? Wow, that's impressive.
What do you think?
Yeah,
That's impressive and not hit rocks. That's good luck.
Okay,
May I ask you your name?
Jim,
Jim.
Boeing?
I
okay.
think we can close the comments.
I have just one more question, just one question. On the trees. These trees that you're gonna plant, what are they, what species are they?
I don't think
I can answer
Well,
that.
and then just how fast are they gonna grow? I mean, for wind.
growth rate on the tree.
I can't answer that. It depends on how much rain we get,
Right.
and how many of these days we have.
Right.
But what we do is work with the local NRCS to develop a tree belt that'll go around the site, that'll help mitigate odor. It's usually roughly a 4 to 6 row shelter belt. Is what
4
we
to
end up
6
with.
row shelter belt usually.
Well, we'll put conditions on it.
Right.
We're gonna put conditions on it.
And he'll work with the local NRCS to,
Joel, what size are they? Could you ask them what size they're
Well,
gonna start with?
We don't have any on the conditions, so for our recommendations to the county, regardless how we do, we gotta put we'll have conditions on the tree belt, because that is one of the ways to help eliminate odor.
Yeah, because I mean, I've planted a bunch of them with the NRCS company and stuff, and they put these little ones in, and the old saying is the first year they sleep, the second year they creep, the third year they leap, so in 3 years, you've got a tree about that high. And then you guys got trees out there, and I mean, it's pretty true to the saying, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So about 6, 7 years, you've got a tree, about my height, well, that's not gonna block a lot of wind. You know, it's not gonna influence anything, so I mean, that's.
Right.
okay, well, yes, sir.
I got some land, I got a half section of land that's gonna be right next to where this is going. Just a half mile from it.
Your name?
Leroy Packard. And, I got a lot of wildlife down there and got a pheasant hunting deal, put in a lot of trees. Got a live creek there, excellent for wild game. What do you think's gonna happen to that? If you don't allow that, it's gonna be the value of my land too.
Yes, sir, we're just about ready to close up comments here, but
Oh, I'm Marvin Kropa, and obviously that's my brother, you guys all know that. But I'm not here for him. I know some of the people involved in Pipestone systems. In my opinion, they're as good as people as you'll ever meet. They'll do what they say. They didn't tell me to come here tonight, I came on my own. And I understand all these people's concerns. You know, I said for years, everybody wants economic development until it's in their backyard. And I sympathize with all these people here. I do. But I can say to you from what I know of the people involved with Pipestone systems, they are good people. They will be true to their word.
comment there, sir?
Well, I'm Greg Kirkville, and all of you in this room have wind turbines. You were not in favor of that when, before they come in. I didn't wanna hear about the noise, I didn't wanna hear about this. Well, you know what, we're building another wind farm now on the south of the old 16, because it wasn't a problem to the landowners and everybody sitting in this room. But when they first wanted to come in, we had people that were opposed to that. They were worried about the wildlife, they were worried about the honey. The same argument that you all have in this room here right now. Everybody seems to think the wind farm now is a good deal.
No, we don't.
We don't.
No, we don't.
No, we don't.
Oh, don't.
Never do that again.
Good. Sure.
Plummer Township. Can I speak a minute?
Sure.
What was his name?
Gary
Okay,
Broadcourt,
Gary.
Plummer
Okay.
Township. I served on the township board 30 years, right behind Lois here, the lady here. Her sons traveled great distance to be here. Okay, you in green shirt, Joel, want to go bowling at this meeting?
What's up?
You in the green shirt,
Yeah,
want
what
to
about-
go bowling at this meeting?
Yeah.
What, you and Greg stand and face the people of Plummer Township and ask them if they feel bullied in this matter?
I have no idea, I'm just on the zoning board, I'm
Greg's from
sorry.
Aurora County, he's not from Plummer Township.
I don't know why you're getting me involved, you wanna get me involved, do you wanna sit down right now, I don't understand why. All I'm gonna say is if you guys wanna show of hands and have popularity contests, this is a zoning board meeting. So, if you guys, whatever,
You brought up the bullying.
whatever.
Close the meeting.
Okay. Public comment is over now. Thank you for all coming. And then,
Alright. Now we gotta put in conditions if on a sentence, so.
anybody got any ideas on that?
I would say at least, I would say at least eight row tree belt with at least 4 being taller trees or whatever. You guys have a problem with that?
What do you mean taller trees?
Well, like,
I guess
you just can't put eight rows of evergreen in them.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not saying like 7-foot trees
No,
to
I'm not
start
saying
with,
no.
taller.
No,
yes.
I'm just saying we need to.
Yes, that's no
Something that's
problem.
gonna grow up to be.
Yep, no problem. No
And I
problem.
don't know if, you guys think all the way around, or is there, most, our variant wind is northwest, so. Would you guys have a problem with 8 rows all the way around, or?
We try to do equal all the way around. That's what we do. Where it could become a problem is where you have this parking lot, it might be 2 or 3 rows. If it has to be 8 all the way around, we can make it 8 all the way around. We like to keep it back from the driveways 50 feet to minimize snow drifting, you know, things like that, but no problem with that. We try to shoot for a fast-growing yet long-living tree. In, you know, a nice mix of trees.
Probably not an ash. Anybody else?
We need to, one of the conditions too is to, well, that's not, you can't put a condition on something that's already in the book, so. On the water permit, I thought there's something here. Well, that's gotta meet all state setbacks. And by the state setback is we gotta meet the water.
DNR will not give us an approval unless we have a water permit.
That's why I wondered if that's what.
We cannot, within the amount of water we have to have something.
Right, you have to have the permit before anything else happens.
Before we even operate.
So if we put a condition on the water permit, it wouldn't.
It's already there.
It's already there.
I don't.
I know we're gonna wanna put a condition on the specific roads in the road haul agreement. We'll have to give the highway superintendent a little more about what he thinks the conditions we have to do there. Of course, we could finalize that by the time at our next meeting there, at our third Monday meeting in June there. And on which direction, whether going over to 45 or going down, like I said, reading the weight is the main.
Anybody else think of anything?
When I could go through, they meet every setback, every zoning, they dot every I and cross every T.
I guess I could ask, is there anything specific to this that we wanna add to it? That's probably about it for right now, besides all
Well, we'll recommend it to the county commissioners, but
there'll be
I
a
mean-
lot, there'll be a lot more study on it after this phase.
right, but as the zoning area of the county, they match every.
It's a lot of information to digest.
Any other board got anything further?
On conditions?
Yeah.
I've got a question. I've got one more question. If you were not able to use this draggle, what other method of application?
We'd use tractors with 7,300 gallon or bigger tanks.
Slurry tanks?
Slurry tanks. And or semis to get it to the fields. Whatever's most appropriate.
They would be.
It's hard on the roads, plain and simple. Rather use hose. It's just as, either way, it's the same cost roughly, but it's better on the roads and it's safer if you're using the hose. We do both.
In different.
Different, yeah, different. A couple of our farms have a lot of little fields. In those scenarios, we use tanks. Because it's, I mean, it takes about a half a day to set up to get to a field a mile away or whatever, just laying hose and getting it set up. Then once you get it set up, it's very efficient.
Okay, if there are no more comments, I'm looking for a motion.
Yeah. You're right. Well, why don't we put down, I guess it's gotta go through.
You're gonna write that.
Alright. Alright, I'll make a motion to pass the conditional use swine production facility, 7740 animals, 3427 animal units, petitioner Foundation Farm, RE LLC, Great Gropa, location 1/4 23 Township, or 10567, with the conditions of trees, 8 rows, a minimum of 8 rows of trees, and a road haul agreement issue in and out, or an in and out road haul agreement.
Okay, motion to pass by Joel with condition of 8 rows of trees, minimum of 8 rows of trees with a road haul agreement. Do I have a second? Did I get a second? Dwayne seconded it. Motion to pass by Joel with condition of 8 rows of trees with road haul agreement, and Dwayne seconded it. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. You gotta go,
Oh, roll call.
we got a roll call.
Got a roll call, okay. Dick?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
James? Aye. Dwayne?
I
Joel?
Aye.
I'm aye, Ted. Motion passes. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Before we do that, what happens is this will go to the county commission on the 19th of June. It'll be the second meeting in June. And you're all welcome to come back to that. It'll be similar format, and we just do it all over again with the commission making the final decision at that time.
They have to have all their extra stuff that you just put in there, all the
Yes.
plan for all that,
Yes.
but then,
They'll come back, say what they're gonna do for the trees, the roads, and all this should be, are you guys gonna file this then with the state
We're
prior
gonna
to that
file
meeting?
one, which we're gonna add, we gotta add a few more documents to it.
Okay.
And they'll get filed within a week or less. Some things aren't finished, like the driller hasn't, we got the drilling results for the geological study yet, things like that. They've drilled it, we just don't got the report.
Right.
And all that will get added in there, and you'll get a copy of everything, what we send to the state.
Right.
Joel, this question. Well, we have, I guess, one question, you guys said you couldn't answer it and everything, but when we go to the commissioners, because you said that's not, I remember you kind of specifically answered this, about the land needed to put the manure out. When we get with the commissioners, will we know that that's actually truly available, the land?
Now you got to ask the commissioners.
Okay, I didn't know if maybe we
I don't know, we don't know that here tonight, so.
because there was some things, I know you guys, it wasn't in your wheelhouse or your
Right.
field or whatever, so we're wondering who's gonna give us those answers, so.
when would that book that you guys have be available to anybody to look at?
When it passes to the state.
Once it's filed with the state,
When the state gets done?
When the file.
It's just a draft at this point.
then it's a public record after that.
When will the state have that? Will we have that before the meeting in June?
No, state will have it in
All right.
roughly a week, he said.
Yeah, and I would guess your county commission would, and I'm not going to speak for them, it would all be approved based on South Dakota DNR and give a permit, otherwise.
A lot of the stuff takes time. with the state.
How can we approve this if we don't know that
You
everything is there?
can, they can approve it with the stipulation that this comes back and everything's good. If it comes back and the state says no,
This,
then
on the
it,
zoning,
then it goes away.
has, on confined feeding areas, it has as a condition that they have to meet, I should say it so I don't.
I mean, I understand that, Joe, I'm just saying, will it be before the commissioner meeting? Will we know that they met everything before that?
I can't answer that because, but on the zoning point of view, it is, once the state approves it, that they meet our county zoning.
Right, the zoning.
Yeah.
And that may or may not be by the time that meeting. But the commission can approve it based on that coming back the way it's supposed to be when it's already done. If it doesn't come back, then it doesn't go forward.
Yeah, if the state comes back and says, you're not meeting.
Yeah, you're not
then
meeting.
it's not gonna go.
It's, okay, now you can adjourn.
How often does the planning and zoning board meet?
Quarterly.
Just quarterly?
Well, whenever, there's.
Once a month.
Once a
Once a
month.
month.
Once a month, okay.
Long as it's
Required once a quarter.
Once, it's required once a quarter, but so far this year, we've been once a month.
I didn't know if you had a regular schedule.
Twice this month.
Yeah, twice this month.
That's no headaches, huh?
Okay, now, I think I'm gonna ask for a motion for adjournment. Do I have a
I'll
motion?
first and second.
Do I have a second?
Same.
All in favor?
Somebody